Morning, family. Happy Sunday. Oh my God. It is day 18 of our walk. And as you know, our normal routine, we're going to get this treadmill started here. And yeah, I woke up this morning feeling a little. And as you know, our normal routine, we're going to get this treadmill started here. Sorry, guys. We got to turn my speaker off. Sorry about that. But yeah, I woke up this morning feeling a little sluggish, only for the simple fact that I really worked myself hard yesterday. When I say I worked myself hard, I really worked myself hard. I worked myself extremely hard. And so, yeah, I rolled over on this morning and got myself out the bed I think it was like 9:30. Yeah, so 30 minutes before this live even began, I got myself up. So I hope all is well with you guys on this morning. I'm having a great day so far after just waking up, and I'm going to take it really light today. I'm not going to do any strenuous exercises, none whatsoever after this walk, because I want to kind of get some rest and get ready for the weekend. But yeah, what I wanted to do is, while I'm in this fat burning mode with my body, with the combination of walking and juicing, I wanted to kind of do the exercises to help push the fat off, get rid of the fat even more. So that's what I was doing yesterday, doing a lot of strenuous exercises, push-ups, curls, working on the abs. That's what I kind of spent my day doing most of yesterday. So on yesterday, I want to go ahead and just kind of get started with our topic for today, right? On yesterday, we talked a lot about, putting yourself in a position to not ask for things that you can command and only ask for things that you should be asking for, right? So if you go back and watch the day 17 video, it has a lot of information in there that you will find extremely valuable. And I hope you go back and listen to that video, because one of the action items for you in that video, we want you to actually document and write down everything that you've been asking for, and write anything that you may have been commanding. And what I want to do is go through that list with you and identify if there is anything in that list that you truly should not be asking for, what you should be commanding. So please go through that video, because we want to make sure that you're on track to success. Because things that you should be asking for, you probably shouldn't be asking for, right? You shouldn't be asking for it. And things that you should be commanding, you probably should be commanding. And so please go back and watch that video. It's going to be highly important. Well, for today's video, I want to kind of keep it in that financial sector. Now, we're walking today. That's for our health, right? We're walking for our health. But while we're walking for our health, I want to kind of go back to finances. So a lot of you right now, right, you're looking into home ownership, right? You're going through the process right now. Some of you are working on your credit to repair your credit so that you can purchase a home. Some of you are in the place right now where you have good credit and you're just trying to look for a particular area to buy a home, right? And you're looking in major markets, right? And as you're looking in the markets, you're trying to determine where you're going to purchase. Some of you might want to, move to certain states or cities that you truly desire and like, and you really want to be a part of those states and cities. And based on prior historical data told you, certain cities, give you certain cities data as far as school and all other types of information, as far as neighborhood background demographics, that allowed you to make decisions before even moving into those neighborhoods, right? And so you was able to use that data to make an intelligent decision before you move to that state or city. So I'll give you a prime example. When we moved to the Atlanta metro area back in 2010, we had took a look at school data. We had took a look at the neighborhoods. We had took a look at the job opportunities. And before we even moved, we had data to make an intelligent decision. And based on the data that we had seen, it said that Atlanta was an affordable market for us, right? It was an affordable market that we will be able to come in, get a job, do our best, right? Do our best in our field, make money, and have affordable living. That's what the data said. Fast forward, Atlanta has come out with some different data, and the data is totally different than what we had seen 10 years ago. As a matter of fact, I'm going to read to you the data that I recently seen about Atlanta. Now, I will tell you, I don't live in like downtown Atlanta in the area, but I live in the Atlanta metro area. I'll give you the information, right? And they came out with some really interesting information. I really want to read it to you. And this article was featured on MSN. And it was written by Candace Edwards. And the title of the article it says, Black Residents Displaced by Design in ATL Gentrification War. So you're asking, well, Tyrone, what is gentrification? And I'll give it to you in a nutshell. Gentrification is when, for example, you have individuals who live in a neighborhood, right? And for this term, we're going to use Black residents, right? And these residents, right? We live in a neighborhood, and some of us are retired. Some of us are working, have high-paying jobs. Some of us have medium-paying jobs. Some have low-paying jobs, right? And so what happens, you have corporations that will come in, and they will start building high-rises. They will start building certain department stores. They will start building a lot of maybe some sports venues. They will start to build a lot of things. And what happens, that's increasing the overall value in those neighborhoods, right? However, because of the taxes, a lot of the residents at that point cannot afford to stay in the neighborhood, right? And why can't you afford to stay in the neighborhood? Again, for those that are listening to my video or live on this morning, who are dialing in or looking from another country, the reason being, I want to kind of break this down to you because domestically, a lot of people understand how this works, and you may not understand, but I just want to break it down for everyone. So as your property value increases, the taxes on that home increases. And the taxes can become so astronomical that you can literally no longer afford to live in a home. So you will have taxes on your home every year. And if you don't pay the taxes on your home, you can lose your home. You can literally lose your home if you can't pay it. And so gentrification is happening now in Atlanta. And I'm kind of go through the article and read a little bit more to you so you really understand what this article is talking about. It says, a new report shows Atlanta is a hot spot. It says hot spot. That means it is extreme. It is hot. It is a hot spot for extreme gentrification. Extreme, on the extreme level, right? They said over the past 5 decades, a mass infiltration of new residents has led to the displacement of thousands of Black residents. The National Community Reinvestment Coalition's study, Displacement by Design, 50 Years of Gentrification and Black Cultural Displacement in the U.S. Cities, finds that between 1990 and 2020, Atlanta saw 155 formerly Black neighborhoods flip to majority white neighborhoods. So They said 155 former black neighborhoods now were flipped to white neighborhoods. That's a high number. So again, what happened? The taxes increased, and the black residents that were in those neighborhoods couldn't afford it. So now Caucasians move in, right? And they live in the neighborhood now, and they can afford it. And the black residents were displaced. Now, you may say, Tyrone, you're starting a war here. You're talking about, black and white issues. That's not right. And I will tell you this, we're talking about finances. And if you saw the earlier part of my life, I talked about making financial decisions before you move to a particular market, right? This is about finances, what I'm talking about. And if this offends you, my intent is not to offend you. My intent is to educate you. So I make no apologies for this educational content, none whatsoever. So we're talking about educational content here that's going to be able to help people from a financial perspective. So again, I'm going to go back to what I just said. You may say, Tyrone, well, if the people can't afford it, they should have never been there. No, that's not how life works. I'll give you a prime example. Tyler Perry, everyone knows who Tyler Perry is, and everyone doesn't know. I'll give you a brief snippet. Tyler Perry is a mogul in the Tyler Perry is a mogul in the movie industry. I was about to say music, in the movie industry. He has his own studios in Atlanta, right? And when he built his studios, he increased the property value of all the homes in that area. Every home, their property values were increased to the extent that the residents would not be able to afford their homes. So what Tyler Perry did, he paid the taxes on all of those homes. Why? Tyler Perry realized, look, I know I moved into this sector of the neighborhood. I know that these property taxes are being increased because of me moving this production studio here. Tyler Perry said, and me knowing that, I don't want to affect my people. I don't want to affect my black people. And so what Tyler Perry did, he paid the taxes on everyone because they wouldn't be able to afford that. So am I saying that corporations should be paying the taxes of every black resident who's currently in that neighborhood? Is that what I'm saying? Am I saying that? So the question really lies, okay, what is it about our tax structure that causes people to be displaced out of their neighborhood once taxes go up? So if you have elderly people, low-income people that are living in these neighborhoods, why would you systematically move them out of the neighborhood by moving things in the neighborhood that's going to balloon the property values of the neighborhood to the extent where the residents can't afford it, right? What can be done about that? And in all transparency, I don't have the answer to that, right? That's the reason why I'm talking about this on today. I'm hoping to get answers from real estate agents, from developers, from people in the real estate industry who is working in this particular area, because I got to tell you, with my heart, right, and the way I think and my care for people, if I'm moving in a neighborhood and I'm bringing value to that neighborhood, and if I am economically impacting that neighborhood where I'm going to cause people to be displaced, especially the elder, I cannot do that. I cannot displace people. I cannot displace low-income people. I cannot displace people who no longer can afford it. There has to be something that can be done. And while I'm talking about this morning, guys, I don't have the answer, but I'm just going to throw some things out there to brainstorm, right? So understand that when you move shopping malls, you move new infrastructure, you move high rises, all those things in a neighborhood and the surrounding area, it's going to cause the property values to increase. I understand that. But does it have to cause the property value to increase to the extent where the people can't afford it and where the people can no longer afford it, and to the extent that you have to increase the taxes where it affects everyone, right? It's affecting everyone, but does it have to be increased to that extent where the county or the city government or state government can't make money? That's what I'm trying to understand. That's the part I'm not quote unquote understanding. I need someone to educate me on that. Because of your tax values, right? I understand that you, as those buildings and infrastructure places are coming in, you're going to need more money to some extent, right? You will need some more money to some extent to fund police, to fund, security, safety. I get that. And you're going to probably need it for some other things for the city. But is there a way? I'm not going to say is there a way. There is a way. There has to be a way where you don't have to displace the residents. That's what I'm getting at. Because this is a continual problem, right? So you're talking about Atlanta, home of the civil rights movement, Dr. MLK. This city now is, according to this report, it's saying that 155 formerly majority black neighborhoods have flipped to majority white residents. I didn't say it. That's what the report is saying. Then, let's further read. The city has the second highest total number of neighborhoods among major metro areas after Washington, D.C. During that period, the city lost the estimated 22,000 black residents in the gentrification in the 4th Ward, East Atlanta, and Kirkwood, according to the report. That's a lot, family. Let's scroll further down. It says gentrification in Atlanta intensified the most from 2000 to 2012. So again, remember I told you we moved to Metro Atlanta 2010, July 2010, if you recall. And then, so it's driven by rising incomes, right? Rising property values and larger college-educated population. The NCRC analysis tracks these gentrification shifts by reassuring increases in per capita income, home values, and residents with bachelor's degrees. Some homeowners benefit from increased equity in their homes. At the same time, many long-term residents face rising rents and property taxes that force them to relocate. So it says, it also talked about the residents who are renting. Pay attention, renters. Pay attention to those of you that are renting. So it not only talks about the people who own the homes were displaced, it talked about the renters. Because now, if you were once renting in Atlanta and the property values increased to the extent that you no longer can afford to rent, you're going to be displaced. And if you're a renter, you have no leverage because you don't own the home. Now, am I saying that it's okay for you to be displaced? No, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm letting you know, as a renter, as a result of gentrification, so if you're a renter in an area that's going to be gentrified, you're going to definitely be pushed out because that rent that you were paying before is probably going to be double, triple, or quadruple rents now. And guess what? The landlord is not going to let you stay in there and pay that base rent when they can get 2 to 3 to 4 times more rent off a new renter who can pay the amount. So that's why it's going to be important for you as a renter, right? As a renter to shift your mindset to home ownership. That's going to be very important for you as a renter to shift your mindset from renting to home ownership. Because the landlord now has leverage over increasing your rents to a certain extent that you no longer can afford to stay there. And guess what? That's exactly what happened slightly thereafter the pandemic. Rents got so high, it got so astronomically high that you can no longer afford the rents. And that's what happened. So family, you gotta shift your mind from renting and do what you have to do to get out of renting. So again, as you all know, I'm looking down just to see where I am time-wise and mile-wise to see how much time we got left, right? I'm working up a sweat here, and I promise we'll continue with our conversation. So we have 0.67 miles left. So that's less than a mile. All right. So let's continue on. I want to make sure I read the whole same thing over and over again. So gentrification often brings new investment, but without protections for existing residents. It erodes cultural identity and deepens inequality, the report says. So that's a true statement. So you remember in that last paragraph, in that last statement, it says, not last statement, but the last part of that paragraph, it says that it doesn't protect residents. It doesn't. And as these corporations are coming in, they're not thinking about the residents. They don't have a Tyler Perry mindset where, hey, if I increase the rents of everyone in the neighborhood, right? If I increase the rents, I'm just going to pay the residents, taxes. They're not going to do that. They will never do that because it's about capitalism. Capitalism doesn't think about anyone else. Capitalism is capitalism. It's about getting paid. And if you're a capitalist, look, the residents are not your problem as a capitalist. But Tyler Perry, right? Yes, he wants to make money. He's going to make money. But he has the heart to think about people, right? That's the heart to think about people. And I have that heart to think about people. And that's why I was telling you earlier, if I'm bringing a high rise or something in an area that's going to increase the property values, look, I'm going to see how I can take care of those residents to make sure they can afford those houses. But you also have to think on the government side, right? Isn't that complicated to change the structure where you're not affecting the residents of the neighborhood, especially the elderly, especially the elderly? How can you protect the elderly? How can you protect them? What can you do to elevate the low income people's income, right? What can you do? Again, I'm not an expert in this area. That's why I'm seeking you guys' advice. I want to know, how can this be stopped? And I want to go further down and read. It says New York, Philadelphia, New Orleans, and San Francisco Bay Area are the cities most affected by racial gentrification, but Atlanta stands out for the severity of its neighborhood transformation. You heard it. Atlanta stands out because of the severity. That's big time. Why does Atlanta stand out? Again, it was the home of the civil rights movement, Dr. Martin Luther King, and this once majority black city is now flipping, turning to no longer being a majority black, but being transitioning over to white. That's what's happening. And according to the report, from 1980 to 2020, more than 500, and I'll make sure I'm reading that correctly, more than 523 majority black neighborhoods nationwide experienced gentrification, and about 261,000 fewer black residents now live in those areas. So 1980 to 2020, you had 523 majority black neighborhoods, right? And Now there are 261,000 fewer black residents that now live in those areas. Let's continue on, family. This is important. And one notable city is New Orleans, right? The deep culture is shared by black and white people alike. Still, a majority would credit black contribution as a major force in shaping a unique American city. That's New Orleans, family. And then those black contributors, New Orleans natives, are victims of economic and racial violence in the form of gentrification. The process became extremely rapid after the failings of the government, both local and federal, following Hurricane Katrina. So after Hurricane Katrina, guys, gentrification ramped up, and those residents that were majority black are no longer majority black after Katrina. And you guys know that. The city was already struggling due to redlining, rising house costs, and affordable housing availability. After Katrina's destruction, the crisis became worse. I didn't say it, this is the article. And it says, we missed an opportunity post-Katrina because there was no comprehensive plan about how we would ensure that renters had housing options, said Kashwana Hill, and forgive me if I'm jacking your name up, Kashwana, of the Louisiana Fair Housing Action Center at 4WWL. Instead, we spent the money to build up neighborhoods that were already gentrifying without protecting long-term residents. The city is approaching the 20th anniversary of the catastrophe. It also ranks 5th on the list of cities with the highest gentrification. However, no major strides have been made in creating opportunities for natives to gain a foothold in the city. Unfortunately, residents of Atlanta and New Orleans are not alone. Black displacement approaches 500,000 people. Policy experts say targeted measures such as property tax freezes. Let's go back and start it over. So I'll make sure I don't mislead anyone. I'm reading the article, family. Property experts say targeted measures such as property tax freezes for long-term homeowners, community land trusts, and stronger tenant protections are essential to prevent further loss of Black cultural heritage. So in here it says it, property tax freezes, right? Property tax freezes. So when I was asking earlier, how do we stop this? In this article, it's talking about property tax freezes, where you freeze the property taxes, right, on the homeowners. That's what this article is saying. Freeze the property taxes on the homeowners so they are not displaced. Now for the renters, right, it says nothing about you, so I don't know how you would be protected. This is talking about the homeowners. And this is why home ownership is so important, family. This is talking about the homeowners. So if property tax freezes can be put in place to prevent our Black families, right, from losing their homes, why don't they do it? That's the question. Why isn't it done? Why isn't it done? They're recommending property tax freezes. And again, if you're moving, these are decisions that you have to make, right? It's almost like in life, you can't remain stagnant in the US because there's always going to be a policy change that's put in place regarding tax hikes that's going to affect your property value and displace you and put you out of your home. This is consistent. This is the consistent theme with gentrification. So you got to remember, all of us are going to grow old one day, right? We're going to be on a fixed income. We're going to be on a fixed income. And this is why it is so important that if you guys are going to stay in the US, you always have to evolve. You always have to make more money. You can never be satisfied. You can never be settled because of things like this. Even when your mindset should be at this point in time to work and also create a side stream of income where you can store that money away. One job is not enough. I'm telling you, treadmill is coming to a stop and we're about to come to a close. One job is not enough, family. One, as you can see, because of gentrification, the elderly people are going to be moved out of their neighborhoods, right? And if you're in your 20s, your 30s, 40s, 50s right now, right? And you have one stream of income, your mindset should be, how much money can I make? I cannot be content with what I have. I have to have multiple streams of income. I not only have to have my job, but I have to have multiple streams of income, right? That should be your mindset. And for those of you, this will be another topic. We're more likely we'll talk about this on tomorrow. For those of you right now that are saying, look, in order for you to be financially free, you don't need a job. I mean, no, let me reword it. You're saying that in order for you to be financially free, it requires you not have a job. And I'm gonna disagree with you. And the reason why I'm gonna disagree with you is on this concept. You could be financially free and have a job, but your job serves as a different purpose. Right now, a majority of the people's job serves as a purpose of paying bills. But there are people that are gifted and talented right now out there that are not leveraging their job to pay bills. They're leveraging their job to fund their business. So in other words, they're not going out there and taking out a loan from a bank or credit card institutions to get credit cards. They're leveraging their job to fund their business. Now I want to make sure you heard that clearly, because when you're leveraging your job to fund your business, that serves as a different purpose. The average person leverages their job to pay bills. And there's a small percentage that leverages their job to invest in their business, in a side business that they have. Do you see the difference? So I want to make sure I change some people's mindset on that. Again, there's two types of people that have a job. One person has a job, which is the majority, that leverages their job to pay bills. And the second type of person leverages their job to invest in their business that they have on the side. And when that income gets up to a certain point, or if it does get up to a certain point, they may still leverage it because they have a cake job, right? A cake job where they can still leverage their health benefits and all their other good retirement benefits that they're receiving, but still build their business. Because the business owner, most business owners, once they've gotten that business to a certain extent, they don't have to be in the business. Other people are running it. And while the business owner himself is leveraging his job for other benefits. So I just want to make sure I take note of that. But so tomorrow, I want to kind of go into more detail about that. So make sure I'm going to put out the live stream for on next week. I'm going to put them out today. So make sure you go ahead and subscribe. Make sure you hit that notify button for those live streams. I want to make sure you don't miss any of this valuable content. Happy Sunday, family. I love you. Have a great day.